I find myself often saying that Tinkercad is not a toy, and that is that it can be used to make very accurate and complicated objects. In order to make accurate objects, you need some form of measurement, and of course Tinkercad provides the measurements of an object when you drag them onto a screen and click a control point. However, it also provides measurements by means of a ruler, and the ruler can be very useful. If you're going to use the ruler, I suggest you set the snap grid to 1 millimeter, because this means when you drag the ruler onto the screen, it will sit at exactly the intersection of two grid lines on the work plane. So we can see that if I zoom in, sitting exactly at the intersection of two grid lines. So having brought the ruler onto the work plane, let's introduce an object. Here, a cube, which by default is 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters. You can see those dimensions are provided here with by the ruler. It's also 20 millimeters deep, which is produced here by the ruler. And you can see it sits 10 millimeters away from the x-axis and 10 millimeters away on the y-axis. However, you can also measure to the midpoint of objects. You just need to click here. And now you can see it's 20 millimeters to the midpoint and 20 millimeters to the midpoint on the x-axis. If we select the object and move it, you can see that those values will change. Now, if we view it from the side, the ruler provides the height and the distance to the midpoint. If we move the object, because the ruler is set to midpoint, it tells us the distance from the work plane to the midpoint. So this can be very useful in positioning objects very precisely. What if you have two objects? So if you drag on a second cube, position it wherever you like, and then you select both, it will tell you the distance between the front and the rear faces of those two objects, and from the left hand and right hand faces of those two objects. And those values are given here. So 40 millimeters from the left to the right hand face, and 60 millimeters from the bottom face to the top face. Here's the value. So the ruler can be extremely useful. One other trick with the ruler is you can have it face any direction you like. You simply click here in this little circle and the ruler will change its orientation like so. And you can dismiss the ruler by just clicking on the dismiss button, X. With two cubes selected within the ruler, if we look at those two objects from the side, we can get a little bit more information. If we raise the cubes up, we get the thickness of the cube and the distance of the center of the cube from the work plane. If we select one of these and move it, like so, and then select both, then the ruler gives us the distance from the work plane to the center between the two objects, so the midpoint between the two objects, as well as the distance from the face of the cube nearest the work plane to the face of the cube furthest away. The other facility in Tinkercad that's very useful for creating precise objects is the ability to use a protractor in order to put the object at any angle you want on the work plane. So if you pull on a cube, any position on the work plane, you'll see that on one side of it there is this double-headed arrow. If you click on it and hold down the mouse button, the left mouse button, you'll see it's a protractor, and as you move the mouse, if you do so such that the cursor remains inside the circle, the object will rotate by 22.5 degrees each time. If on the other hand you move the mouse cursor outside the circle, you can rotate the object by 1 degree in 1 degree increments. It's also the case that if you hold down the capitals key on the keyboard and rotate the object, it will rotate in 45 degree increments. And this is important if you want to position objects at, say, 90, 45, 180 degrees to one another. There's a second thing that you can do, which is click, of course, within the box that's giving the angle and enter your own custom angle. And the object will adopt that angle. So that's all there is to know about the protractor, except to say that the protractor exists in all three dimensions. That is, you can rotate the cube in any dimension. You just have to select the appropriate protractor. And that's all there is to know about protractors and rulers.